All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our 6th BCBA practice exam, where we're going to the next set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe for all of our updates. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for our mock exams and our combo pack. As always, when you pass, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. 93. Jake wants to get in shape for his upcoming wedding. He has 3 months to prepare. He hires a personal trainer who puts him on a strict regimen of push-ups and sit-ups on an interval training schedule. The interval is 15 minutes. Week 1, Jake must complete 50 push-ups in 15 minutes. Then, in week 2, Jake must complete 75 push-ups in 15 minutes. What type of intervention does this most resemble? All right, so we're looking at a differential reinforcement question here. Because for Jake, who wants to get in shape, his personal trainer has him on a regimen of push-ups and sit-ups on an interval schedule. And that interval is 15 minutes. The personal trainer says, in week 1, you must complete 50 push-ups in 15 minutes. Great. However, in week 2, I'm going to increase the requirement to 75 push-ups in 15 minutes. And so in our differential reinforcement procedure, the first thing you want to ask yourself in a DR question is, are you teaching a replacement behavior? The answer to that question is going to help you eliminate several options. Are we teaching a replacement here? Well, we're not, because we're still doing push-ups every week. We're just doing more push-ups. And so since we're not teaching a replacement behavior, we can immediately eliminate the differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors and incompatible behaviors, because those two differential reinforcement procedures teach replacements. We're not doing that here. So we're looking at something that's either a DRO, a DRL, a DRH, or a DRD, because those don't teach replacement behaviors. They just modify the existing behavior. Now, in this case, what are we doing to the existing behavior? Well, we're taking push-ups and increasing the amount that occur each interval. So what type of intervention does that resemble? A, differential reinforcement of lower rates. Well, by the name, obviously we don't want lower rates, right? Because we're trying to increase how many push-ups are occurring. And the DRH question, which is answer B, are easier than the DRL, DRD questions, because with lower rates and diminishing rates, we are, in both cases, attempting to decrease a behavior, but sometimes in different ways, and the end goal might be different. In differential reinforcement, there's only one type where we're trying to increase the rate of behavior. And that's what we're trying to do here. So DRH looks good. Always read all of your answer choices. C, DRD, well, same reason as DRL. We're not trying to decrease, right? We're not trying to diminish how often this is occurring. So A and C are out. And then DRA, differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors. Like we talked about at the beginning of the question, we're not teaching a replacement. We're not teaching an alternative behavior. We are just taking the same behavior and increasing the rate, or we're trying to increase how often it occurs. So what type of intervention does it resemble? B, DRH. 94. Nathaniel and Claire are playing together in Nathaniel's house. Claire picks up one of Nathaniel's favorite toys, so Nathaniel pushes Claire and grabs the toy. Nathaniel's dad takes the toy from Nathaniel for 10 minutes and tells him to play with another toy. What type of consequence was this? All right, so we've got a timeout question, and that should be pretty obvious if you've been studying your terms and you're getting more fluent, and that's where we're going to start. All right, now if you're not there yet, that's fine. But remember, we want to be fluent before anything else. Fluency is the absolute key to this exam. Don't rush to try to do as many questions as you can before becoming fluent. The questions should be a tool you use to become more fluent. So with that said, we're looking for the type of consequence. And we can see it's a attempted punishment, and it's likely a timeout procedure. Now, how do we know that? Well, Claire picked up Nathaniel's toy. Nathaniel pushed Claire and grabbed the toy. So Nathaniel's dad takes the toy from Nathaniel for 10 minutes. So he's removed the toy from Nathaniel and tells him to go play with another toy. So what type of consequence was this? A, non-exclusionary timeout. Now, what is non-exclusionary timeout? with the non-exclusionary timeout as a temporary removal or break from the object or the reinforcer, but the individual isn't removed from the environment. In this case, Nathaniel can't play with the toy for 10 minutes, but he's still in the environment. He's not being excluded. There's just timeout from reinforcement. So if we look at an exclusionary timeout, that would be like Nathaniel was taken to his room, right? He was removed from the environment altogether. When you think timeout from reinforcement. A lot of this starts, I think, to make more sense. A partition timeout is when you put up a blocker of some sort in between the learner and the environment or the situation. Again, not occurring here. All Nathaniel's dad did was put Nathaniel on timeout from reinforcement, specifically the toy. Nathaniel's still with Claire. He's still playing with other toys. He's just on a non-exclusionary timeout from that specific stimulus. And then a timeout ribbon is when you, exactly what it sounds like, right? You put a ribbon or a star or a mark on somebody and it indicates they're on timeout, not occurring here, right? It's a simple non-exclusionary timeout. Nathaniel can't play with that specific toy, but he's still in the environment and he's still playing with these other toys. So what type of consequence? A non-exclusionary timeout. 95. Glenn was a practicing attorney for 10 years prior to earning his behavior analyst certification. Glenn is now in a partnership with different law firms where he acts as an attorney, but also helps design interventions to improve employee performance. When Glenn advertises himself on the company website, what does Glenn absolutely need to include? This situation is going to become more and more common as ABA grows and as more and more outside people, so to speak, get into the profession. So this is not going to be all that uncommon. So what the BACB has done is they've altered their ethical code to ensure people who practice ABA are doing it ethically and doing it the right way. So in Glenn's case, he wants to advertise himself on the company's website. Well, he's a practicing attorney as well as a behavior analyst, and he's working with these law firms where he acts as an attorney as well as designing interventions. So he's wearing two hats. And the important distinction here is that the two hats, so to speak, the two jobs are separate. What the BACB is wanting is that we distinguish behavior analytic practice from our law job, from our accounting job, from our yoga job. They don't want things commingled, right? Because remember our dimensions. We want to be conceptually systematic, technological, all these things. So when Glenn advertises himself on the company website, what does Glenn need to include? A, research showing the efficacy of behavior analysis. Not necessarily, right? The efficacy is proven. He doesn't have to reprove it over and over again. He's got a certification. So Glenn, in theory, is okay to practice behavior analysis. B, a statement or disclaimer clearly separating his behavior analytic work and his law work. Yes. When those things are not in conjunction, Glenn has to make that very, very clear. I'm acting as an attorney here, and then I'm acting as a behavior analyst here. Now, we're always behavior analyst, right? But he can't advertise both. If he's not actually engaging in behavior analysis, he can't make it seem like he is for more fees or more clout or whatever it might be. It's got to be a statement or disclaimer separating his ABA work and his law work. What about C, an approved letter from the BACB allowing him to practice law in ABA? No, as long as he's certified in ABA, he's good to go. The BACB has no jurisdiction over his law practice. And then D, an explanation for why he decided to go into behavior analysis after practicing law for so long. He can choose to include that. There'd be nothing wrong with that, but it's not something he needs to absolutely include, again, according to the ethical code or the task list. What he does absolutely need to include is this statement or disclaimer separating the two. This is my ABA work. This is my law work. I'm not commingling those two. And if I do, it's clearly stated why, and I'm following the dimensions. All other times, they're separate. He has to make that very, very clear. 96, Kenny attempts to climb on tables at daycare. He does this. The team lead in the daycare room says, "No, Kenny, we don't climb on furniture." Kenny no longer climbs on tables. Kenny no longer climbing is a result of what? Now, I think this is a very easy, straightforward question, but like we talk about on our easy, straightforward questions, we don't overthink them. We trust our preparation. We answer. We move on. You're going to get some easy questions on the exam. We don't know what easy or hard is or how many there will be, but there's a lot of questions on this exam. And some of these you're going to know very well. Trust your preparation. In this case, Kenny is no longer climbing. Immediately, we should be thinking punishment or extinction because the behavior is reduced, right? Kenny is no longer climbing on tables. As a result of what? Well, when he attempts to climb, the team lead in the daycare says, no, Kenny, we don't climb on furniture. So the team lead is giving him a consequence of a reprimand. Kenny, we don't climb on furniture. So something positive is being added. So we're looking at positive punishment. Pretty straightforward, right? A reprimand is being added. It's decreasing Kenny's behavior. Now, that's our prediction. Let's see what we find. A, negative reinforcement. We know it's not reinforcement because Kenny's behavior decreased. A is out. B, negative punishment. Well, it is punishment, right? But it's not negative. It's positive. Something's been added. B is out. So now we don't have our prediction. We said positive punishment. It's not there. That's okay. We made a good prediction. Let's find our next best answer. If we look at C, conditioned punishment, would this reprimand be conditioned? Absolutely, right? Reprimands are conditioned. These verbal reprimands are paired over time with other stimuli that have punishing properties to create a punishing stimulus. This is absolutely a conditioned punishment. Now, unconditioned punishment? No, unconditioned punishment is more like hunger and thirst and pain. This is a verbal reprimand that's been over a period of time paired with other punishing stimuli and developed punishing properties. Positive punishment was our prediction. It was a good one. We didn't see it. We go to our next best answer, which is C, conditioned punishment. 97, Ms. Garrett is not happy with her son's new school. She doesn't believe they are doing a good job with academics or behavior management. She removes her son from school and begins homeschooling him. She customizes her house to mimic what her son's school would look like as she would like to put him back in school next year. What strategy is Ms. Garrett using? So a strategy question. And what is your first instinct here? Mine is it's generalization. Why do I think that? Well, she's not happy with her son's new school, so she takes him out and starts homeschooling him. She then makes her house mimic what her son's school is going to look like for next year. Meaning, Ms. Garrett's doing the smart thing. I'm taking my son out. I'm going to be teaching him, but I need these skills to translate to school next year. It's a good strategy. We plan for generalization. We don't hope for it. We plan for it. So now we have to identify what generalization strategy she's using and make sure you know the different generalization strategies, right? And the differences because they can seem similar, but they all have their own use. So if we look at A, natural contingencies, well, it's still contrived. It's still in her homeschool setting, and she needs this generalized to school setting, which she's no longer in. She's not really planning for many natural contingencies right now. Okay, most of these contingencies at the time will be very contrived. A is not a great answer. B, program common stimuli. Is she programming common stimuli? Absolutely. She went into the school, right? Or she took the school, what it's going to look like, and recreated it in her house. She's programming those common stimuli that he's likely to encounter. Her son is likely to encounter. Now, if we look at C, train loosely. What's the difference between common stimuli and training loosely? Well, training loosely, she's going to, if she was training loosely, she would alter different stimuli that are irrelevant each day because she doesn't want those irrelevant stimuli gaining stimulus control over behavior. She trained very loosely, but not necessarily what she's doing here. She's planning and she's programming all the common stimuli that her son might see in school. So the strategy she's using is programming common stimuli. Make sure you understand the different generalization strategies. They can be a little confusing at first, right? And even I sometimes have to go back and recheck, okay? Because they seem similar, but they all have their own usage. In this case, she is programming common stimuli, hoping he's going to generalize to school next year. 98, a new behavior technician is assigned to you, a behavior analyst. You will now be their supervisor. Upon meeting them for the first time, what should you establish? And this is ripped pretty much from the task list, okay? And it's personnel management, supervision. People tend to struggle with personnel management, supervision. My number one tip is to treat personnel management, supervision, same as you treat your clients in your cases. Meaning you need plans, you need reinforcement plans, behavior plans, goals, strategies, the whole 9 yards. That's how we need to treat our supervisees. So you have a behavior technician who's assigned to you, and you're a behavior analyst, obviously. Most of the time, you should assume you're a behavior analyst in these questions, and you're going to be the supervisor. You meet them for the first time. What do you need to establish? What do you first need to do upon meeting them? A reinforcement system and punishment system that you both agree on. Well, a couple things here. You shouldn't start with punishment, right? Again, we're treating this just like a client case, quote unquote, that you both agree on. You don't even know them yet. How can you already get into these type of systems? You can't, right? B, an anonymous feedback collection system for providing ongoing feedback. Well, it's a one-on-one situation. You're going to know that feedback, who it's coming from. And at the same time, you need to be giving feedback to them, not anonymously, right? You need to be direct with them. C, clear performance expectations just for the supervisee. Well, that would be okay if not for D, clear performance expectations for you and the supervisee. There need to be expectations for both of you. It's not just you constantly expecting things from the supervisee, giving them feedback. It's always a two-way street. And that's one thing I think people mistake. Well, I'm in charge, I'm the boss, I'm the manager. Yes, but you need feedback from them and you need to respect them. And they're going to have expectations for you, just like you have expectations for them. So what do you need to establish? Well, D, clear performance expectations for you and the supervisee. 99, Jiraiya's parents went out of town for the weekend and left him home alone and in charge of the house. When they returned, the oven, stove, and sink were a mess. Jiraiya's parents want to use restitutional overcorrection in response to seeing the mess in the sink. What might this look like? Now, this is basically a definition question, right? Because they give you the term. They say they're going to use restitutional overcorrection in response to the mess. So as long as you know what restitutional overcorrection is, it should be a rather straightforward question. Because if you were going to use restitutional overcorrection, which is when the person or the learner involved restores the environment and then restores it to a better form than before, and the oven, stove, and sink were a mess, well, we're going to repair that and then restore something else as well. So that's what this is going to look like. So A, Jiraiya must use the oven, stove, and sink without leaving a mess behind several times in a row. To me, that sounds like positive practice overcorrection, doing the right thing over and over. We're using restitutional. B, Jiraiya must make a mess while using the oven, stove, and sink several times in a row. Doing the wrong thing over and over is negative practice. We're using restitutional. C, Jiraiya must clean the oven and stove and sink until spotless. With restitutional, we want to take it one step further. D, Jiraiya must clean the oven, stove, and sink until spotless and also sweep and mop the floors. So D is our answer. Awesome. Thank you for watching. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials. Please subscribe on YouTube. As always, work hard, study hard. Let us know when you pass. See you soon.